How does a night watchman take $3 million from a criminal organization, outsmart security, and vanish while they stop three people hunting him? Stay until the end, because you'll see how Marcus cracked open a sealed container full of cartel cash, left them chasing three wrong men, and disappeared with $3 million without leaving a single trace. Before we dive in, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. 8 months earlier, Marcus Thompson was just an invisible night watchman, until one broken shipping seal exposed what was really inside the warehouse he guarded every night. Marcus Thompson had been invisible for 12 years. Every single night at exactly 10 p.m., he clocked in at Meridian Shipping Complex, walked the same predetermined routes through 47,000 square feet of warehouse space, checked the same containers in the same order, and went home at 6 a.m. sharp. $42,000 a year to protect millions in legitimate cargo during the day, and something far more dangerous during the night shifts. He was the perfect ghost, trusted completely, paid barely enough to survive, and so reliable that management never questioned his presence anywhere in the facility. The phone call that changed everything came during Jake's basketball practice on a Tuesday evening in March. Marcus's 14-year-old son, the star player of his high school team and straight-A honor student, collapsed on the court screaming that he couldn't feel his legs below the knees. The ambulance ride to Miami General Hospital felt like the longest 20 minutes of Marcus's life. The emergency room smelled like disinfectant in desperation. "Dad, I can't move my legs at all," Jake whispered from the hospital bed, his face pale with terror and tears streaming down his cheeks. "What's happening to me?" Dr. Martinez pulled Marcus into the hallway outside Jake's room, his expression grave and professional. "The MRI results show a rare spinal tumor that's pressing directly against your son's spinal cord. It's growing rapidly, faster than we typically see with this type of growth. Without immediate surgical intervention, Jake will be permanently paralyzed from the waist down within 10 weeks maximum. The tumor is cutting off nerve signals, and once those pathways are completely severed, there's no way to restore them." Marcus felt his entire world collapse around him. "What kind of surgical intervention are we talking about, doctor?" "There's an experimental surgical procedure that was developed in Berlin specifically for cases like Jake's. The success rate is over 90% for patients his age when we catch it this early. But there's a significant problem. The procedure costs exactly $280,000, and insurance companies refuse to cover experimental treatments regardless of their success rates. They classify it as investigational therapy, which means you'd be responsible for the entire cost out of pocket. $280,000. Marcus's entire annual salary was $42,000. Even if he worked for free for the next 7 years and somehow managed to live without any income, he still couldn't afford Jake's surgery. That's when Elena arrived at the hospital with Klaus, her wealthy German boyfriend who happened to be a prominent cardiovascular surgeon with connections throughout European medical research facilities. Klaus examined Jake's medical charts and imaging results with the confidence of someone who'd seen similar cases before. "We can have Jake on a plane to Berlin tomorrow morning," Klaus announced. "I have direct connections at the research hospital where they developed this procedure. I'll personally cover all medical expenses, travel costs, and accommodation during recovery. But I want to make this arrangement official and permanent. I'd like to legally adopt Jake and give him my family name." Jake grabbed Marcus's hand with desperate strength, his eyes filled with confusion and fear. "Dad, I don't want to have a different name or a new father, but I also don't want to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Please don't let that happen to me. There has to be another way." Marcus kissed his son's forehead and made a promise he had no idea how to keep. "I'll find the money somehow, buddy. Give me some time to figure this out." But walking through the hospital parking lot toward his 15-year-old Honda Civic, Marcus had absolutely no idea what that solution could possibly be. That night, Marcus found container 17C with broken seal. Inside, vacuum-sealed cash bundles, money counters, Spanish ledgers with millions in amounts, satellite phone with encrypted messages about Tuesday delivery. Marcus photographed everything. His military training kicked in. He made a decision that would either save Jake or get them killed. He took exactly $100 bill from a bundle that contained what appeared to be several hundred identical bills. This was purely a test of their security procedures and attention to detail. If the people running this operation counted their money precisely, bill by bill, he would know immediately when they discovered the theft during their next accounting. If they didn't notice such a small amount missing, it would tell him that their operation was far larger and much more careless than he initially imagined. Marcus carefully documented the container inspection in his official security log exactly as company policy required. Container 17C shipping seal found damage due to transport handling, contents thoroughly inspected and verified secure, according to manifest, no losses or discrepancies detected. Over the following week, Marcus began systematically noticing patterns and details that he had somehow managed to ignore or dismiss during 12 years of night shift employment. Certain specific containers always arrived at exactly 2:30 a.m. and departed by 4:45 a.m. like clockwork. The same truck drivers handled these deliveries, but they never followed normal check-in procedures, never presented proper identification, and never waited for official loading dock assignments. Diego Santos, who was supposed to be a day shift warehouse manager, always worked late hours when these particular nighttime deliveries arrived. Most telling of all, Marcus realized that his own patrol routes had been deliberately designed to keep him away from specific areas of the warehouse during these precise time windows. The results of his $100 bill test came back after exactly 1 week. The money bundle remained completely untouched. They weren't counting individual bills or even conducting regular inventory checks. Marcus began to understand that he was looking at a massive financial operation, and the people running it weren't monitoring their cash with the precision and attention he had expected from a professional criminal organization. Elena brought Jake to visit Marcus at his modest apartment, and the sight of his son struggling with crutches broke Marcus's heart. Jake's condition was deteriorating faster than the doctors had initially predicted. Klaus has made all the arrangements, Elena explained. Private jet to Berlin, the best medical team in Europe, complete recovery support, and even a private tutor so Jake doesn't fall behind in school. But Klaus wants to make this permanent. He's prepared adoption papers and wants Jake to take his family name. Jake looked at his father with desperate, pleading eyes. Dad, Klaus seems really nice, and he obviously has the money to fix my back. But I don't want to become Jake Muller. I want to stay Jake Thompson forever. Isn't there anything at all that you can do to help me? Marcus hugged his son tightly and lied convincingly. I'm working on something right now, buddy. I just need a little more time to put all the pieces together. Marcus conducted reconnaissance using military training. Mapped patterns, Fridays 2:30 to 4:45 a.m. precisely. 4 personnel, 2 armed, 1 money handler. Found 37-minute security gap. Same 3 containers rotating weekly. Marcus escalated testing. Took $1,000 over 3 weeks from different containers. No reaction. Each container held 300 to 400K, refreshed weekly. Serious money, loose tracking. Jake's medical condition continued deteriorating at an alarming rate. The surgeon called Marcus with an urgent update that made his blood run cold. The tumor is growing much faster than our initial projections indicated. We need to move the surgery timeline up to 8 weeks maximum, or the window for successful surgical intervention will close completely and permanently. Jake could barely walk, even with crutches now, and his physical therapy sessions showed measurable loss of sensation in both legs. Elena was losing patience with Marcus's inability to provide a solution. Klaus is offering to pay for absolutely everything and provide Jake with opportunities you could never give him. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for our son to have a normal, healthy life. You need to make a decision. That's when Marcus made a discovery that chilled him to the bone and revealed just how dangerous the people he was stealing from actually were. Tommy Rodriguez, the previous night security supervisor, who had supposedly quit suddenly to move to Arizona 3 months earlier, hadn't quit at all. Marcus found a small newspaper article buried deep in the Miami Herald's online archives. Tommy's car had been discovered at the bottom of the Miami River with 3 bullet holes through the windshield. Police suspected cartel involvement, but had no witnesses and no leads to pursue. Marcus realized that the stakes of what he was contemplating were literally life and death. These people killed anyone who threatened their operation, but Jake needed surgery in 7 weeks, and Marcus still needed $275,000 more than he had ever possessed in his entire life. Marcus planned his first significant theft with the same military precision he had once used for combat operations overseas. He would steal $5,000 during a Friday night when he knew the money sat in the containers for a full 48 hours between pickup and the next delivery. He chose this specific timing because weekend shifts operated with skeleton crews, dramatically reducing the chances of unexpected supervision or management oversight. He documented fake, routine security inspections in all the official logs to provide legitimate explanations for his presence near the money storage containers. He carefully tested security camera blind spots that he had been systematically mapping throughout his 12 years of warehouse employment. Most importantly, he planned to spread the theft across 3 different containers to minimize the mathematical chance that any single missing amount would be detected during routine accounting. The heist operation went smoothly and according to plan until the very final moments. Just as Marcus finished resealing the 3rd container and preparing to return to his normal patrol route, he heard voices approaching from the main warehouse corridor. Diego Santos was giving someone an unscheduled facility tour at 3:30 a.m., which was completely outside normal operating procedures and management protocols. Marcus had exactly 30 seconds to properly reseal the container, secure the stolen money in his security equipment bag, and reach a legitimate patrol location where he was supposed to be according to his documented round schedule. He made it to the loading dock office with less than 5 seconds to spare, his heart hammering so loudly in his chest that he was absolutely certain Diego would hear it from the corridor. But Diego walked past with his unidentified guest, casually discussing peak season shipping capacity and storage optimization, as if this was a completely normal business meeting conducted in the middle of the night. 2 full weeks passed with absolutely no reaction to the missing $5,000. Marcus realized the cartel operation was so massive and well-funded that relatively small amounts went completely unnoticed in their accounting. The people running this criminal enterprise weren't counting every dollar or conducting detailed inventory checks. They were moving such enormous volumes of cash that minor losses simply disappeared into statistical rounding errors. Marcus made the decision to scale up his theft operations significantly, but Diego Santos was beginning to get suspicious for reasons that had nothing to do with missing money. Marcus overheard him during a phone conversation speaking rapid, angry Spanish. The few words Marcus caught made his blood run cold. Alguien ha estado en los contenedores. Los sellos se ven diferentes. Empieza a revisar todo 2 veces. Someone has been inside the containers. The seals look different. Start checking everything twice. Security measures throughout the warehouse tightened immediately and dramatically. Diego implemented random container inspections at completely unpredictable times throughout every night shift. New high-definition surveillance cameras appeared overnight in areas that had previously been blind spots in the security coverage. Armed guards began patrolling inside the warehouse facility instead of just monitoring the exterior perimeter and access points. Most concerning of all, the money storage containers started getting GPS tracking devices attached to monitor any unauthorized movement or tampering. Jake's medical condition deteriorated further during this same period. A routine physical therapy session revealed that he was rapidly losing sensation in both legs below the knee joints. Dr. Martinez delivered even more devastating news during their next appointment. We're now down to 6 weeks maximum before the surgical window closes permanently. After that critical point, even successful tumor removal won't be able to restore normal neurological function to the damaged nerve pathways. Elena was becoming desperate and increasingly angry with Marcus's apparent inability to provide solutions. Klaus is offering to adopt Jake and pay for absolutely everything. The surgery, the recovery, his future education, everything. He's even arranging for Jake to attend the best private schools in Germany. This is Jake's only realistic chance for a normal, healthy life. You need to stop being stubborn and let Klaus help our son. Despite the dramatically increased security measures throughout the facility, Marcus decided to attempt a $10,000 theft. He spent 2 full weeks studying the new guard patrol patterns and shift schedules, eventually identifying a narrow 23-minute window during the shift change period when security coverage overlapped poorly. He planned his infiltration route through maintenance areas and storage sections that the newly assigned guards hadn't fully learned yet. He specifically targeted 2 different containers during a money transfer night when the largest amounts of cash would be present in the facility. While Marcus was inside container 23A, carefully counting out his target amount from different money bundles to avoid detection patterns, armed guard Carlos Rivera made a completely unscheduled patrol round. Marcus heard heavy military-style footsteps approaching the container and realized with growing panic that he had absolutely nowhere to hide. The container was packed with organized money pallets, but there was no cover anywhere that would adequately conceal an adult man from a thorough search. Marcus made the desperate decision to lie completely flat on the concrete floor behind the lowest row of money pallets as Carlos's powerful tactical flashlight beam swept methodically through every section of the container interior. A rat scurrying across the warehouse floor made a distinct scratching noise that distracted Carlos for just long enough. The armed guard followed the sound with his flashlight beam and radio chatter, giving Marcus the precious few seconds he needed to remain completely motionless and undetected in the deep shadows. Carlos spent 5 agonizing minutes conducting a thorough examination of the entire container before finally moving on to continue his patrol route. Marcus forced himself to wait an additional 10 minutes to ensure the guard was completely gone before completing his theft operation and escaping back to his legitimate patrol areas. Diego Santos began conducting a formal internal investigation after detecting the unmistakable pattern of small but consistent thefts occurring throughout the facility. He personally reviewed months of archived security footage looking for any anomalies or suspicious behavior patterns, though Marcus's careful route planning through camera blind spots meant the video surveillance showed nothing useful. Diego conducted detailed interviews with all warehouse personnel about any unusual behavior, suspicious activities, or unexplained presences they might have observed. He implemented a strict buddy system policy requiring that no employee could work alone in any sensitive areas during money transfer operations. Most seriously, he brought in a professional cartel security specialist from Miami to conduct a comprehensive vulnerability assessment of the entire money laundering operation. Marcus used his legitimate administrative access to the warehouse security systems to plant carefully crafted false evidence, suggesting that the thefts were actually happening during day shifts rather than during his night shift hours. He created detailed maintenance work records that provided innocent explanations for his documented presence in various areas of the facility during the exact times when theft operations had occurred. He began spreading subtle rumors among his co-workers about specific day shift employees who seemed financially desperate or expressed resentment about their working conditions. Using sophisticated counter-surveillance techniques he had learned during his military police service, Marcus even began conducting his own covert investigation of the official investigation, monitoring who was asking questions about what subjects and when. With only 4 weeks remaining until Jake's absolute surgery deadline, Marcus planned his most ambitious theft operation yet. He would steal $25,000 from containers holding over $500,000 in total during a night when severe thunderstorms were forecast for the Miami area. The electrical storm would interfere with sensitive audio surveillance equipment and provide natural cover for any unusual sounds his activities might generate. Marcus planned to extract the money from multiple containers during the peak intensity of the storm, when the facility's electronic security systems would be most disrupted by atmospheric interference. The theft operation was proceeding perfectly according to his detailed plan until the thunderstorm knocked out the warehouse facility's main electrical power grid completely. Emergency backup generators kicked in automatically within seconds, but they operated entirely different lighting systems and backup security cameras with completely different angles and coverage patterns than the main electrical system provided. Diego Santos and 2 heavily armed guards arrived within minutes to secure the facility during the power outage emergency, following crisis protocols that Marcus hadn't known existed. Marcus found himself trapped inside Container 23A with $25,000 in freshly stolen cash, while armed cartel security guards conducted a systematic search of the entire warehouse facility. He lay completely motionless between towering stacks of money pallets for 90 agonizing minutes, listening to heavy footsteps and rapid Spanish conversations taking place just feet away from his hiding position. The guards discussed everything from international soccer match results to their families back in Mexico, while Marcus fought desperately to control his breathing pattern and avoid making any sound whatsoever that would reveal his presence and result in his immediate execution. When the armed guards finally moved on to systematically check other areas of the sprawling warehouse facility, Marcus forced himself to wait an additional 30 minutes to absolutely ensure they weren't planning to return before he dared to move from his hiding spot and escape with the stolen money. After the $25,000 theft was discovered during the next routine accounting cycle, High-ranking cartel leadership arrived directly from Miami to take personal control of the security situation. Professional interrogation specialists questioned every single warehouse employee who had any level of access to the money storage areas. Comprehensive polygraph examinations were scheduled for everyone who possessed container access privileges during the relevant time periods when thefts had occurred. A substantial cash reward was publicly offered for any information leading to the identification of the inside thief who was stealing from their operation. Most ominously, explicit death threats were made against anyone who was discovered to be helping steal cartel money or providing assistance to whoever was responsible. Marcus successfully passed his polygraph examination using advanced stress control and deception techniques he had learned during specialized military training. But the professional interrogation specialist told Diego something afterward that made Marcus's blood freeze in his veins. Someone with extensive military or law enforcement training is systematically stealing from your operation. This pattern of thefts isn't random, opportunistic, or amateur in any way. This is methodical, professional, and extremely sophisticated in its execution. Jake's most recent MRI results showed that the spinal tumor had grown significantly larger since the previous scan just 2 weeks earlier. Dr. Martinez delivered the most devastating medical news yet. We now have exactly 3 weeks maximum before surgical intervention becomes medically impossible. The tumor is pressing directly against multiple segments of the spinal cord simultaneously. Even with completely successful surgery at this point, there's an increasing risk of permanent nerve damage that could affect Jake's mobility for the rest of his life. Jake completely broke down emotionally when he heard this latest medical update. "Dad, I can't feel my toes anymore at all. Sometimes I can't even feel my feet. Please don't let me end up paralyzed for the rest of my life. I'll do absolutely anything. I'll even let Klaus adopt me and change my name if that's what it takes to walk again." The cartel organization responded to the escalating theft situation by bringing in professional military contractors with extensive combat experience, former special forces operators with advanced counterintelligence and facility security training, sophisticated electronic surveillance equipment capable of detecting human body heat signatures through concrete walls and steel container barriers, motion detection sensors that automatically activated during money storage periods and could detect even the slightest unauthorized movement, armed response teams with explicit authorization to shoot to kill any unauthorized personnel found in restricted areas under any circumstances. Marcus realized he needed a new strategy. Instead of avoiding security, he'd exploit their weaknesses. After observing their training, he identified their flaw. They protected against external threats, not internal ones. Using military electronic skills, Marcus built counter-surveillance equipment, radio interceptor for communications, EMP device for 12-minute surveillance blackouts, GPS detector for containers. He programmed security cameras to show empty footage during thefts. During this intensive technical preparation phase, Marcus made a crucial discovery about Diego Santo that explained many previously puzzling aspects of the operation. The warehouse manager wasn't simply facilitating cartel money laundering activities. He was actually the cartel's regional operations chief, personally responsible for the entire Pacific Northwest money pipeline that processed over $50 million annually. This revelation explained how security measures always seemed to anticipate Marcus's movements, how shipping containers arrived with such precise timing coordination, why his patrol routes had been so carefully designed to avoid money transfer operations, and how the cartel could respond so quickly and effectively to any security breaches or operational problems. With only 2 weeks remaining until Jake's absolute surgery deadline and still needing $225,000, Marcus planned the most audacious theft operation of his criminal career. He would steal $50,000 during a single night when over $800,000 would be transferred through the warehouse facility. He created an elaborate false maintenance emergency that would require immediate attention throughout multiple areas of the building, providing completely legitimate explanations for his presence anywhere in the facility during the theft window. The entire operation was carefully timed to coincide with a cartel personnel shift change when their internal communication systems would be temporarily disrupted, and coordination between different security teams would be at its absolute weakest point. During the execution of his $50,000 heist operation, Marcus accidentally triggered a motion detection sensor that hadn't appeared on any of the facility blueprints or technical diagrams he had studied during his preparation. Emergency alarms sounded throughout the entire warehouse complex, and heavily armed response teams arrived on scene within less than 3 minutes. Marcus was forced to abandon exactly half of his target theft amount and make an emergency escape through building air conditioning ductwork that he had carefully mapped using the facility's original construction blueprints from the city planning office. He emerged in the employee parking lot just as local police units arrived, responding to what they were officially told was a false alarm triggered by routine maintenance work. Diego Sanos was standing near the building exit when Marcus emerged, and he gave Marcus a look of deep suspicion and barely concealed hostility. However, Diego couldn't prove anything or take any direct action since Marcus's presence at the facility was completely legitimate and fully explained by the maintenance emergency situation that he himself had created as cover for the theft operation. Elena arrived at Marcus's apartment the very next day, carrying officially signed adoption papers and legal documents. "Klaus is flying here from Germany tomorrow morning," she announced with obvious determination. "Either you have Jake's complete surgery money by tomorrow night, or I'm taking Jake to Germany permanently. This is absolutely his last chance for a normal life, Marcus. Don't let your stubborn pride destroy our son's future." Jake was now barely able to walk even with the assistance of crutches, and his condition was visibly deteriorating every single day. "Dad, I just want to be able to walk again like a normal person," he said with heartbreaking honesty. "I don't care anymore who pays for the surgery or what I have to do to make it happen." After the motion sensor incident and Marcus's narrow escape, cartel security measures escalated to what could only be described as a complete state of siege warfare. Armed personnel maintained continuous 24-hour presence inside the warehouse facility. All employees were subjected to comprehensive strip searches both before and after every single work shift. Electronic monitoring equipment was installed to track and record all personal communications of anyone with any level of facility access. Most chillingly, formal death sentences were officially declared against anyone caught stealing cartel money, with explicit promises that executions would be carried out slowly and publicly to deter any other potential thieves. Marcus successfully intercepted encrypted radio communications that revealed the cartel leadership's final strategy for ending the theft problem. "El hombre interno se revelará eventualmente. Cuando lo haga, hazlo lento. Necesitamos enviar un mensaje que todos recordarán. The inside man will reveal himself eventually. When he does, make it slow and painful. We need to send a message that everyone will remember." Jake's surgery was now scheduled for exactly 10 days away, and Marcus still needed $200,000 that he had no legitimate way to obtain. The medical crisis reached its absolute peak when Jake collapsed during a normal school day and was rushed by ambulance to the emergency room. Dr. Martinez delivered the most devastating update yet. The tumor has now caused permanent structural damage to the L4 and L5 vertebrae. "We have exactly 1 week before surgery becomes medically impossible. Even if we manage to operate successfully within that window, there's now only a 60% chance that Jake will ever be able to walk normally again." The cartel brought extreme security measures, former special forces operators, thermal imaging through walls, seismic sensors detecting footsteps, kill teams with shoot authorization. Marcus learned they knew the thief was military-trained employee. They planned systematic torture of suspects until confession. Marcus was on the list. Torture expert flying from Mexico with techniques to keep subjects conscious for days. But Marcus also discovered what appeared to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity hidden within this crisis situation. The cartel's annual major money transfer operation was scheduled to happen in exactly 72 hours. Over $2 million would pass through the warehouse facility in a single night, while all cartel leadership would be present to personally oversee the operation. The enhanced security presence and increased personnel would actually create significant communication gaps and coordination problems that a skilled operator with detailed facility knowledge could potentially exploit. Elena delivered her absolute final ultimatum with tears streaming down her face. Klaus's private jet lands at Miami International Airport tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Jake's surgery is already scheduled and confirmed at the Berlin Research Hospital for next Monday. Either you have the complete $280,000 by tomorrow night, or Jake and I are leaving the United States permanently. I cannot and will not watch our son become paralyzed for the rest of his life because of your stubborn pride and inability to accept help." Jake whispered to his father with a voice filled with fear and desperation, "Dad, I'm scared that I'll never see you again if I go to Germany. But I'm even more scared of spending the rest of my entire life in a wheelchair, unable to walk or run or play sports ever again." Marcus prepared for his final mission. He created maintenance emergency requiring facility-wide access, programmed camera malfunctions for specific windows, built EMP device for surveillance systems, mapped escape through storm drains. Security contractors identified Marcus as prime suspect. Military background matched theft patterns, always present during thefts with legitimate explanations. Clean finances made him more suspicious. They planned arrest after $2 million transfer. Marcus successfully detected their investigation using advanced counter-surveillance techniques learned during military intelligence training. Professional electronic listening devices had been planted throughout his modest apartment and hidden inside his 15-year-old Honda Civic. Experienced surveillance teams were following him during all off-duty hours using rotating vehicles and personnel to avoid detection. His phone calls were being monitored and digitally recorded by sophisticated equipment. His computer usage and internet activity were being tracked in real time. Marcus realized that he had less than 48 hours before they would arrest him for interrogation. And once that happened, both he and Jake would be lost forever. When Marcus discovered a military-grade GPS tracking device hidden in his car's rear wheel well, he knew with absolute certainty that they were planning to grab him that very night. He had to disappear immediately, execute the biggest and most dangerous heist of his entire criminal career, and escape with $200,000 before dawn, or both he and his son would be destroyed. At exactly 11:30 p.m., Marcus implemented his master plan with the precision and coordination of a military special operations mission. He triggered a carefully orchestrated false electrical fire alarm that required immediate emergency maintenance response throughout multiple sections of the facility. He activated his custom-built electromagnetic pulse device to disable the cartel's most sophisticated electronic surveillance systems for precisely timed 18-minute windows. Using detailed maps of the municipal storm drainage system that he had obtained from city public works departments, he entered the warehouse facility through underground tunnels without triggering any of the heavily monitored perimeter sensors or access control systems. Marcus executed his plan with flawless professional military precision. 11:45 p.m., successfully disabled all thermal imaging cameras using liquid nitrogen coolant spray that temporarily blinded their heat detection sensors without causing permanent damage. 11:52 p.m., gained access to container Alpha 7, which contained over $800,000 in small denomination bills, organized in vacuum-sealed bundles. 12:07 a.m., carefully extracted exactly $67,000 while staying just under the mathematical threshold that would trigger immediate automated alert systems. 12:15 a.m., moved efficiently to container Beta 3 and removed another precisely calculated $67,000 using identical techniques. 12:28 a.m., reached container Gamma 9 and successfully extracted the final $66,000 needed to reach his target total of exactly $200,000. The cartel security team realized that something was catastrophically wrong when their sophisticated monitoring systems detected coordinated electromagnetic interference from an unknown source. Motion sensors throughout the warehouse facility were displaying anomalous readings during what was supposed to be a routine maintenance emergency response. Radio communications between different security teams were being systematically disrupted during the most critical money transfer operation of the entire year. Armed response teams were immediately dispatched to investigate what appeared to be impossible coordination between multiple technical malfunctions occurring simultaneously. While Marcus extracted money from Beta 3, Carlos Rivera arrived with thermal equipment. Marcus had 90 seconds before heat scan exposed him. Using smoke grenades, he created thermal cloud and escaped undetected. Cartel realized active theft during major transfer. Total lockdown. Armed teams searched every area. Additional units called in. Diego commanded manhunt for the professional thief. Trapped inside the lockdown facility with $200,000 in freshly stolen cartel money, Marcus had to rely on the most advanced aspects of his military training to survive. He used maintenance tunnels and hidden structural passages that he had learned about from studying the building's original construction blueprints to avoid the systematic search teams. He methodically disabled additional security systems that had been activated during the emergency lockdown, buying himself precious time while creating confusion among the search teams. He carefully planted false physical evidence, suggesting an external security breach from the main loading dock area, successfully misdirecting the search teams away from his actual location and planned escape route. Most crucially, he had to precisely time his final escape attempt during the chaos and confusion of shift changes, when coordination between different security teams would be at its absolute weakest point. While hiding in narrow air conditioning ductwork with $200,000 in stolen money, Marcus received a devastating text message from Elena that made his already desperate situation even more urgent. Klaus's plane lands at Miami International in exactly 3 hours. Jake asked me to tell you goodbye and that he loves you before we leave for Germany forever. Every single minute that Marcus remained trapped inside the warehouse facility was precious time stolen from his son's final hours before leaving the United States permanently. What an absolutely insane story, right? If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most brilliant operations ever pulled off, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing true crime stories. And I'm curious, do you think Marcus was a hero or a criminal? Was he justified in taking from the criminal organization to save his son's life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one,